please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
The 15th Finance Commission has become a steamy affair, with the southern states, or many of the southern states, on the warpath. The most contentious issue is one of the terms of reference of the Commission, which states that the devolution of funds from the centre to the states should be made on the basis of the 2011 census. The southern states, barring Tamil Nadu, are irked because the total share of the southern states in the country's population has fallen from 22% in 1971 to 18% in 2011. So the states are irked that simply because they have been effective in the implementation of family planning programs, they appear to be punished by getting a smaller part of the central pool. The Prime Minister today, of course, specifically defended the terms of these terms of reference, saying that the government has asked the Commission to actually incentivize states that have worked to control population. Let's hear out what the Prime Minister said.
A baseless allegation is being made about the terms of reference of the 15th Finance Commission. The Indian government has suggested to the Finance Commission to consider insensitivizing states who have worked on population control. By this yardstick, a state like Tamil Nadu, which has devoted a lot of effort, energy and resources towards population control, would certainly benefit.
Okay, that's as clear as it gets. But joining us to discuss the terms of reference in detail is Dr. Abhijit Sen. He's a member of the 14th Finance Commission. Dr. Sen, thank you very much. We should be having some state finance ministers joining us in a bit. But what is your sense, sir? By putting in that word 2011 census be followed, is the centre being unfair to the states who have worked well on population control?
I think the date of the 2011 from 1971, it's important, but I think it's a relatively minor part of what I think is the problem with the 15th Finance Commission TOR.
Okay.
TORs of finance commissions in the past have really been very neutral. It's not the centre telling the Finance Commission, you look at this from our point of view. It's those matters the centre can raise with a Finance Commission in a memorandum, just as states can do.
Okay.
But the TOR should be above both the centre and the state and treat them, in an equal way.
Okay.
As far as the date, the calendar year is concerned, this is a matter which is important, but it's not just the southern states. It's 10 states in the country have a lower population ratio in 2011 compared to 1971, and they include Punjab, Assam, West Bengal, and Odisha.
Okay.
Okay, so those are fairly major states.
Yes.
Which are, and so it's, don't make it just a north-south issue.
Okay.
And don't just make it a one TOR issue.
All right.
I think there are major issues in the whole thing.
Yeah, we have other issues to discuss with you, but the person who made this complaint is also with us, Dr. Sen, so do stay on. Mr. Thomas Isaac, the Finance Minister of the state of Kerala, has joined us. Mr. Thomas Isaac, we just played the Prime Minister's soundbite saying that one of the terms of reference of the Finance Commission is also that states which have worked well on population control be incentivized. So what is your problem then? 2011 is one term of reference, but there is very quite clearly one of the terms of reference saying that states which have worked on population be incentivized. So you should not be badly off, Mr. Isaac.
Oh, that's a big joke. The joke is
Which is?
91% of the total award of the Finance Commission is on the basis of tax devolution.
Okay.
And the entire this 91% is based upon 2011 population.
Okay.
While the incentives that the PM is speaking about are 9 in number, and at most the allocation would be, say, 2 to 3% of the total award of the Finance Commission.
Okay.
If you go by the earlier awards.
Okay.
And therefore, it can never, even in the distant dream, compensate for the loss that is made in the tax devolution. Loss in the tax devolution. That's the answer.
I take your point, but let me put the same thing to Dr. Abhijit Sen, who was a member of the 14th Finance Commission. Dr. Sen, I'm coming to the other contentious issues in a bit, but just on this population issue, your commission said that it will distribute, I think, what, 17.5% weightage of the tax sharing will be on the 71 census, and 10% weightage was given to the 2011 census. So is it that it is the Finance Commission's own discretion what to choose? Even if this is in the TOR, can the 15th Commission say that we will take 50% weightage from 2011 and 50% to 1971? Can they do that?
Yes, it is constitutionally within the powers of the Commission to do anything it wants.
Okay.
Except it can't ignore terms of references. And we therefore gave a certain weight, a 10% weight, for the 2011 census. And actually, just to make the point that Mr. Isaac just made, it's not just 17.5 for 1971.
Okay.
And 10% for 2011.
Okay.
50% of the entire, other things are scaled by the 71 population.
Okay.
So the entire, income distance criteria also involves the population.
Okay. But do you buy what Mr. Isaac is...
71 population.
Yeah, Mr. Isaac says... I take your point, sir, but Mr. Isaac is also pointing out that the Prime Minister's defense is not good enough because 91% of the money will be distributed on the basis of the 2011 census, and what the Prime Minister is talking about incentivizing states that are have done well on population, those clauses actually cover only 9% of the money. Is that right?
No, again, the point is what happens. Is it 91%, this percent, that percent?
Okay.
Is to the discretion of the Finance Commission.
Oh.
And that is true also of the Prime Minister saying that they will look at the incentive. Come along. I mean, the Finance Commission is a constitutional body. The Constitutional gives it two things to do. One is the devolution and the other is grants. And it is up to the Finance Commission to decide what that devolution parameters are.
Okay.
The present terms of reference go beyond past terms of reference in trying to push the Finance Commission into doing a particular thing. And that's true about 1971 census. It's true about the incentives for this or that.
Okay. So if Mr. Isaac were to go and make a very strong pitch to the Finance Commission that he would want half the money to be given on the 71 basis, can the Finance Commission agree to Mr. Isaac, or will it be bound by what the terms say, Dr. Sen?
They are not bound by anything, but it entirely depends upon what they in their wisdom want to do.
Okay.
But a Finance Commission is going to be judged on the basis of how much has it gone by terms of reference rather than by a fair and even consultation between the states and the center.
Okay. Well, Mr. Isaac, that certainly opens a door of hope for states like yours. You can convince the Finance Commission to do otherwise. And after all, the previous commission also was not told about 1971 or 2011. They did it in their own wisdom. Does that give you some confidence that the Finance Commission can still be fair to you?
Now, in the 14th Finance Commission,
Just a second.
1971
we were told
was
1971 census.
All right, all right.
But then there was also supposed
Was stated.
that they had to take into
Okay, Dr. Sen, I'm just coming
the
to you.
demographic changes that occurred thereafter.
Yes, yes.
And in taking into consideration that consideration, they decided
Yes.
a particular weightage 10% would be based upon 2011 population base.
Yes.
Now, my take on this terms of reference is that if they are not bound by that, then it loses. Why do you have terms of reference at all?
Okay.
With the constitutional, there are three things assigned to the Finance Commission. It's enough to repeat that.
Okay.
In fact, that is repeated in every terms of reference.
Okay.
Then they go on to give the detail. Now, what Abhijit said is true. Things which Centre should have represented to the Commission in their memorandum, they are trying to pressurize the Commission by putting in the terms of reference.
Yeah.
For example, beef here, it's just not population issue.
Yeah.
There are much more than that. For terms of references, many intonations, reading between the lines, it's very clear they're trying to pressurize.
Which one, sir? Which one are you saying? Which
For
one is...
example, we're reviewing the 14th Finance Commission award.
Yes.
42%.
Yes.
How it has affected Centre, blah, blah, blah. But everybody sensible knows that 32 and 42 are not comparable. 32 only non-plan revenue was taken into consideration. 42 includes normal plan fund also.
Yeah.
And also they had done away with the discretionary grants. Everybody knows it.
Yes.
And this common knowledge is converted to us as something very problem for centers that then they are asked to review. Likewise, I can give a number of instances where pressure is being put on the Finance Commission to reduce vertical devolution.
Okay.
So that's a matter which is paramount importance to all states.
Okay.
Secondly, there are in many places in the TOR where they are egging the Commission to impose more stringent conditionalities, telling to determine what are populist programs and so on and so forth. Conditionalities on borrowing, conditionalities on tax devolution itself. These are unheard of things.
Okay.
Therefore, they are undermining the fundamental principles of federalism.
Okay.
And these are our objections.
Okay.
And these also should be addressed.
Okay. No, I take your point entirely. There is a phrase that says control or lack of it in incurring expenditure on populist measures. Hardly a statement you would expect the government to tell the Finance Commission. But let me get Dr. Sen's view on it. Dr. Sen, let me go one by one. Isaac has raised the point about a kind of problem that the Centre is making of the 14th Finance Commission's recommendation. I'll just quote what Isaac is saying. The impact of the fiscal situation of the union government of substantially enhanced tax devolution to states following recommendations of the 14th Finance Commission, blah, 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 it goes on. Do you think that was unfair to state that, as Thomas Isaac says, everyone knows that it was the centrally sponsored schemes money that went into, and therefore 42% did not necessarily mean more money. In any case, is that an unfair statement to put in the terms of reference?
It is unfair or not, I don't know. It is certainly unprecedented for a terms of reference to refer to a previous Finance Commission's decision and say, look at that. It basically says, please revise it. I think that was something which has not been there before. And second, I think it is much more than that. It's not just the issue about populist schemes. Other terms of reference list a huge number of schemes to be monitored and incentivized. Now, you can't incentivize and monitor the devolution. The devolution is a constitutional obligation for the center.
Okay.
You can monitor and incentivize grants, but you can't give a higher grant to make it monitorable at all or to have any incentive value unless you cut the devolution.
Okay.
So there is a pattern to this. The pattern is that please cut down on the devolution, increase the grants and make them conditional. If that is the intention of the central government, it's not the constitutionally that should be the major agenda it puts forward in its memorandum to the Finance Commission.
Yeah, well, actually,
the Finance Commission TOR should not contain all of this.
Okay. Well, actually,
and
Vivek,
I hope that the Finance Commission makes up its mind on its own.
Yeah. Well, actually, Vivek Debroy is trying to answer this from a constitutional point of view by saying that I take your point, sir. I take your point. Vivek Debroy is arguing the contrary in an article today in one of the papers, saying that actually it was the 14th Finance Commission which misunderstood clauses 280 and 282 of the Constitution. But we are in legal ground over here. I'll have to do one thing. I will have to take a break. But Mr. Thomas, Mr. Isaac and Dr. Sen, do stay on. I'm back in a jiffy. Back in a jiffy, sir. Back in a jiffy. Welcome back. We have been debating the controversy over the terms of reference of the 15th Finance Commission. I'm speaking with Dr. Abhijit Sen, who was a member of the 14th Finance Commission. And in a bit, we are going to be joined again by Mr. Thomas Isaac, the Finance Minister of the state of Kerala. The state of Kerala, along with a few other states like Puducherry and Andhra Pradesh, have been arguing that putting in the 2011 census as the benchmark for population to devolve funds from the centre to the states was unfair because they lose out just because their population control programs have done better than other states. Dr. Sen, you were speaking about other kind of strong-arming statements in the terms of reference. Do you think that the states have pointed out to the fact that continuing imperative of the National Development Programme, including New India 2022, is a very unfair inclusion? That's the centre's programme. Why should that form a part of the terms of reference of the Finance Commission? Would you agree to that criticism?
Yes, because, you see, let's also realize this is the first Finance Commission after the Planning Commission ended. Now, till now, the Planning Commission did its job and the Finance Commission did its own job, and we really assumed that there would be a Finance Commission. I mean, there would be a Planning Commission as well. Now, the 14th Finance Commission actually took a middle way. From certain calculations, it took out the plan thing.
Yes.
But the fact of the matter is that the devolution is the main thing that the Constitution tells the Finance Commission to do. Grants are an add-on.
Yes.
The grants can be through the Planning Commission, it can be through the central government, and it can be through the Finance Commission.
Yes.
The point is that if you ask the Finance Commission to increase its grants, the Finance Commission can only increase the grant either by cutting down the devolution from the 42 to say back to 32.
Yes.
And that is the thing that Isaac did talk about.
Yes.
Or else it can do it by telling the central government, don't have your schemes.
Okay.
Now, I don't think the Finance Commission will be in a position to do the second.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the TOR is making them think of the possibility of the former.
Okay.
And I hope that the Finance Commission will make up its mind, TOR or no TOR, it will take a fair view of what it thinks is the correct thing to do. Okay. The Finance Commission is its own child.
Yes.
It owes itself to the Constitution, not to the existing central government.
Okay. Well, I take your point, but we'll have to wind up this discussion What is your final gut telling you, Dr. Sen? Do you think, do you fear that the work of the 14th Finance Commission will be reversed by the 15th Finance Commission? Do you think that your efforts to bring in the grants and aid amount to the financial devolution formula will be set back and probably more money will be given into grants and aid and less money into non-discretionary division? Do you fear that?
Well, that is clearly what the terms of reference are pointing towards. I hope that the 15th Finance Commission, which has its wisdom and it has the power to redo whatever we want to do, does it on the basis of what it considers to be correct, rather than by the terms of reference. And by correct, I mean listen to the states, listen to the center, and make up your mind. You are a constitutional body. You're not the servant of the center.
Okay. Well, we hope that message will be loud and clear, and we have some eminent men in the 15th Finance Commission. Dr. Sen, thank you very much for joining us with your thoughts on the terms of reference. The charge is that the terms of reference is asking the Finance Commission to give more money on a discretionary basis to between the states on the basis of how they have performed on, say, digitization or direct benefit transfer or non-populist measures. This, both Thomas Isaac and Dr. Sen argue, is unfair. And one hopes, of course, that the 15th Finance Commission will draw up its own independent way of functioning and distributing and devolving funds. Thank you very much for joining us in this discussion.